Everyone thinks the most dangerous thing a parent can do is raise their voice. But the truth is, the quietest fathers do the most damage.
My name is Aleesha Parker, and my father, Vincent Parker, was the most dangerous kind of criminal. The kind who tucks you in at night, calls you his princess, and files fraudulent tax returns in your name before you're old enough to understand what taxes are. He didn't destroy me in one moment. He did it across 23 years of small, deliberate, perfectly legal-looking decisions. The key word being looking. Vincent Parker was charming, genuinely, effortlessly charming, the kind of man who made friends in grocery store lines and remembered their names 6 months later. He sold real estate in Atlanta, drove a clean Escalade, kept a fresh haircut. Everybody loved Vincent, except the IRS, and eventually, me. As a child, I was his cover story. At 7 years old, Vincent started claiming me as a business dependent, not just a tax dependent, but fabricating business expenses tied to my existence. Tutoring costs that never happened, medical expenses that were never incurred, educational materials for a homeschooling program I was never enrolled in. I was a child going to public school in Decatur, Georgia. On paper, I was apparently receiving $23,000 worth of specialized educational services annually. I didn't know. How could I? I was 7. I thought tax returns were something adults did on computers and complained about. At 9, he opened a custodial investment account in my name, sat me down ceremoniously, made it feel significant. Baby Pearl, your daddy is investing in your future. This right here is going to change your life. I beamed, told all my friends my dad was investing in my future. The account was real. The investments were real. The beneficiary structure, quietly, cleverly arranged so that Vincent could liquidate without my knowledge or a court order, that was the part he didn't mention. By the time I was 12, he'd withdrawn $34,000 across 3 years. New Escalade, kitchen renovation, a trip to Cancun with a woman who was not my mother, my future spent. As a teenager, the operations became bolder. At 15, Vincent sat across from me at the kitchen table with a warm smile and a document. This is a junior business partnership agreement, Aleesha. I'm bringing you into the family business, teaching you entrepreneurship. Your grandfather would be proud. I signed. 15, flattered, desperate for his approval in the way daughters of charming fathers always are. That document made me a 10% partner in an LLC Vincent had created, which meant I was also 10% liable for its debts. Debts that totaled $180,000 by the time I turned 18 and began appearing on my credit profile the moment I hit legal adulthood. I graduated high school with a 3.9 GPA and a credit score of 512. At 17, I got to Spelman College, full academic scholarship. The letter arrived on a Saturday. I cried. Mom cried. Vincent smiled and said all the right things at the dinner table. 3 weeks later, he informed the financial aid office, posing as my guardian, that our family income had significantly increased, and I no longer qualified for need-based components of the package. It hadn't. We hadn't. I lost $31,000 in scholarship funding based on income figures Vincent fabricated to an institution because a daughter at Spelman on a full ride would have independent access to resources, networks, and people who might ask questions about her finances. An educated, independent Aleesha was a liability.
As an adult, I became one anyway. It took 4 years of night classes while working at an accounting firm, the irony of which was not lost on me, to get my CPA certification. Numbers had become my obsession, specifically because understanding them meant nobody could use them against me again. At 25, I pulled my complete financial history. Every account, every filing, every LLC document. I spread it across my apartment floor on a Sunday afternoon with a highlighter and a yellow legal pad. It took 6 hours to map the full architecture of what Vincent had built on my name. My colleague, Marcus, federal tax attorney, meticulous, deeply unbothered by confrontation, looked at my documentation on a Monday morning and said 4 words. "This is tax fraud." I know. And financial exploitation of a minor. I know that too. Aleesha, this isn't a civil matter. This is... I know what it is, Marcus. I need to know how far we can take it. He looked at the stack of documents, then at me. As far as you want. We went to the IRS first, Criminal Investigation Division, not the regular audit department. The documentation was so thorough that the agent assigned to our case called it an unusually complete during our second meeting. That's federal agent language for, "We've never seen a civilian walk in with this." Simultaneously, Marcus filed a civil suit, financial exploitation of a minor, fraudulent misrepresentation, the Spelman's scholarship interference specifically. Vincent was audited, investigated, and indicted across a 14-month period. The real estate license he'd held for 22 years was suspended pending resolution. He called me from a number I didn't recognize. When I heard his voice, I hung up. That went on for days. Then, one Wednesday evening, I decided to hear what he has to say to me. "Aleesha, baby girl, whatever you think I deserve right now, I probably deserve far more." "Vincent," I screamed. That was the first time I'd ever used his first name out loud. It felt good. "I'm a CPA. I spent 4 years learning to read exactly what you spent 23 years writing in my name. We're done talking." "I'm your father," he said, his voice breaking. "You were my father. You were my liability. I've since removed you from the portfolio. That is what you deserve, and you can never have any space in my life." Then I ended the call. The civil settlement covered my student loans, the fabricated LLC debts cleared from my credit, and a figure that represented the documented losses from the custodial account liquidations. I donated 10% to a financial literacy program for teenage girls in Decatur. Vincent Parker built his entire career on reading fine print and finding angles. He raised a daughter who reads finer.